How much does it cost to feed all of my animals? Is it even economical? In today's video, I'm going to break down the cost of feeding all of the animals here and what they give us. First up, let's talk about the milk sheep. Miss Margot is currently in milk and she is being fed grains during milking every time I milk. And Sugar, back here behind her, she is getting a little bit of grains as well. We made our monthly trip to the feed store, so I've got to get this stuff all situated. We're going to get our feed for the sheep, and we're going to get it all ready to go for milking. They didn't have the alfalfa that I normally get. I've only gotten it once before, so I don't know if I should say normally, but they didn't have the alfalfa that I had gotten last time, and I'm a little bit wary about this one because it's very dusty. I don't know about it. We'll see. Here's the difference between those two pellets. I think I'll get the one that I had before. They didn't have the one in this hand in stock, so this is the dusty one. It's okay, it'll be fine. But I've been wearing my cooling vest a lot because it is really hot out. And I did schedule to get these guys sheared because I think they will appreciate it as it gets even hotter next month. So I went to the feed store today, and the total cost for this whole entire month for all my animals was $117. That was my total cost for a whole month plus of feed for my animals. And I went and got 2 bales of hay yesterday for $12. And they don't go through even right now, they're not even using half a bale in a month. The food storage containers that I put their feed in were free. They were given to me. I was using them for cat food and chicken food, but I wanted to move them over here so it's a little bit easier than having to mix their food up at the house and bring it over every single time. Right now, Sugar gets half a pound of feed when I milk, just to keep her separated and satisfied, and Margot gets about 3 pounds each time I milk. She doesn't always finish it all. Sometimes she doesn't really like the alfalfa as much, so she'll leave the alfalfa in there. And I try to do about half and half. Those cups that I use for measuring are about a pound in those cups, each scoop. Even with the cooling vest on, I am sweating like crazy. So I can imagine these guys with their wool coats are uncomfortable in this heat. And we haven't had rain for several weeks now. We had so much rain in the spring, and then we've had nothing.
The animals need fresh water, which you can factor into your cost, but there are many ways to cut down on this cost using rainwater systems, but I haven't explored that yet. Let's talk about feeding the chickens next. There is a variation in the types of chicken food. You can get pellets or crumbles, you can get layer feed or chick grower or all stock feed. It really depends on what you're getting and your locality. My goal here is to try to grow as much of my own food for the chickens as I can to cut down my costs. I've seen lots of different ideas for ways that you can make and grow your own chicken food right at home. Jeez, somebody is super excited about getting the first watermelons out of the garden. She has demolished all of that on her own. Is that good? Did you miss watermelons? Yeah, me too. I have been dreaming about watermelons since we were done with them last year. They were so good. So I'm really excited to pull in our first watermelons from the garden. Very exciting. Which brings us to another point. All of the scraps, like these watermelon rinds, go out to the chickens and it helps feed them, cut down on the cost. They love the watermelon seeds and they'll eat the rinds. They love food scraps. Overall, the cost of feeding the animals is really a commitment of time. It doesn't need to be super fancy or picture perfect. It can just be frugal and usable. All right, so let's break down the cost of the feed that I get for 1 month of feeding my animals. Now keep in mind, feed costs can fluctuate depending on where you live, what's available to you, and also the seasons of the year. In the summer, my animals are having all kinds of fresh grass and bugs and seeds, and they eat way less than they do in the wintertime. But we also don't get a lot of snow here. In some places where you have snow and there's nothing on the ground that they can forage, you're going to have a higher cost in the winter for feeding your animals. So let's break down what that $117 gave me from the feed store. So sweet feed is about $15 a bag, and I get 2 of those. Chicken layer feed is about $20 a bag, and I get 2 of those. Alfalfa, $21 a bag, and I also get 2 of those. And then I got the hay, which is $6 a bale, but they go through about half of that in a month, maybe not even half. That might change over the winter, but for right now, that's what we're going to factor in. Add in tax, and that brings us to our grand total of $117 from the feed store. Now, what is all of that feed going to? I have 2 sheep. One of them is in milk, one of them is still a baby. So we are going to have a ram in the fall to breed, and then in the spring we'll get babies. So we may have more animals in the spring, and we'll probably end up selling those and not keeping them. I might keep 1, we'll see. And then with the chickens I have right now, I have 14 laying hens, 1 rooster, and 11 pullets that are very close to laying. So once those new hens start laying, I'll be getting tons of eggs. I should be getting about 2 dozen eggs a day. And with the sheep, I'm getting about 3/4 of a quart every time I milk. That's twice a day. That adds up in the fridge. I'm making butter, yogurt, frozen yogurt, cream, cheese. And we're drinking tons of milk too. And eventually I'd like to start making some hard cheeses. I just haven't ventured into that yet and learned what I need to do to get started yet. But that is on the to-do list. In exchange for all of that feed that I am buying every month, I am getting approximately 45 quarts of milk in a month and approximately 20 dozen eggs a month. When my new layers start laying, which will be any day now, that will bump up to about 37 or 38 dozen a month. Overall, I would say I'm getting much more from my animals than the cost of feeding them. It really is just the time that goes into it. And the startup costs are the biggest factor when you're getting an animal on the homestead. But you can cut those down by being frugal, reusing and repurposing the stuff that you have, looking locally for stuff that's just going to be thrown out. I have gotten so much stuff that was just headed to the dumpster that was totally usable, and just learning a few carpentry skills.
We can't forget about one more valuable resource we get from our animals, manure. This goes to the compost from both the chickens and the sheep to help fertilize our gardens.
And we get all of this to go to the compost pile, a mixture of the manure and the hay that they threw on the ground.
And one more little benefit, they mow for me, which saves me gasoline and time. See the line where they were before the fence was moved?
The feed cost is pretty minimal for everything that I'm getting from my animals, but there are times when things can go wrong that are more costly of my time or finances, depending on what is going wrong. We just had a really big thunderstorm come through, and I just came outside to check on something in the garden and saw my sheep out in the front yard. Thunderstorm had knocked over the fencing. Luckily, they were just hanging out, and they didn't get out and run away, but that was pretty stressful. So I got them stalled up really quick, grabbed some food for them, and now I've got to go fix the fence. On top of all of the amazing food I get from my animals, I find the rhythm of homesteading very soothing. I always have liked to make things from scratch, even before I even dreamed of having a homestead. I hope you found this helpful, especially if you are considering is homesteading really worth it? Is feeding the animals really cost effective? I hope this was helpful and you enjoyed it. Thanks for being here today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.